Hey guys, it's Roger and welcome back to 202 Film Collective. As you can obviously see by the decor here, it is currently Christmas time. So if you're wondering which of these two panoramic 35mm cameras that you would like to put in your loved one's stockings, then let me tell you what the major differences are between the Fujifilm TX-1 and the Hasselblad XPan 2. Alright, so first of all, this is not going to be a review of these two cameras. Instead, we're just going to be highlighting the main differences between the TX-1 and the XPan 2. The one that's most obvious, as you can see here, is the presence of the ISO selector dial as well as the exposure compensation dial on the TX-1. Now, for the XPan 2, you can see that they removed both of those physical dials and instead put those functions into the back LCD screen. So for me personally, this is actually a con for the XPan 2. The reason why is I prefer to actually have the physical dials in order to change that without having to take my eye off of the viewfinder and then look at the back LCD screen in order to mess with those settings. Secondly is a matter of longevity. As you guys might know, LCD screens are notorious for being kind of finicky and they tend to die before your camera dies. So if that happens for the XPan 2, then you have effectively lost the ability to control both your ISO and exposure compensation. So that's it pretty much for the physical differences between these two cameras. Everything else on the camera bodies are essentially the same. The other differences are mainly going to be internal, that they either added functionality or updated on the XPan 2. The first of which is bulb mode on the TX-1. Only lasted for 270 seconds. Now they increased that maximum length to 540 seconds for the XPan 2. So that would be useful for all of you low light shooters. Another one that's really important for if you want to do handheld shots, the XPan 2 added the shutter speed in the actual viewfinder. So on the TX1, the shutter speed was only listed on the LCD screen, and in the viewfinder you had instead 3 LEDs that would indicate either overexposure, underexposure, or spot-on exposure. So if you prefer to handheld and want to see what shutter speed you're shooting at, say if you're shooting in aperture priority mode, then I would go for the XPan 2. So the next difference I can't exactly demonstrate for you because I have here the Fujifilm TX-1. As you can see, the TX-1 is available in this sort of silver/champagne finish. It is a titanium body, and titanium is notorious for being very difficult for paint to bond to it. So for the Hasselblad XPan, they had it in a black paint finish, which if you've seen any used copies, you'll find that most of them suffer from paint flecking and peeling off of those. So for the XPan 2, they addressed that issue and made their painting process a lot more sturdy. That being said, as you can see, it still shows some sign of nicking and wearing, just not nearly as bad as the original XPan is. But if that's something that you are concerned about, I would say just go for the bare titanium finish of the TX-1 and you'll never have to worry about paint flecking off. One more feature that they added to the XPan 2 that was lacking in the TX-1 is the ability to do multiple exposures on. So if you really want to do multiple exposures on panoramic film, I'm sure there can be a lot of really cool creative stuff you can do with that, then the XPan 2 is for you. So this last difference may only affect a very small percentage of you guys, in that if you guys shoot infrared film, then there was a problem on the original TX-1 in that the data imprint that it would leave on your film caused the film to fog up if you're using IR. They fixed this issue in XPan 2, so if you're an IR shooter, then definitely go for the XPan 2. Well, there you have it. So as you can see, there are really not any major differences between these two cameras. So I would say if you prefer to have the physical dials, then go for the TX-1. If you want to have your shutter speed visible inside your viewfinder window, then I would say go for the XPan 2. And of course, if you do a lot of low light photography or even IR photography, then hands down the XPan 2 is for you. So thanks for tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season, and we'll see you in the next year.